Pitt from Fiery Pit Forge and Homestead. Today, I'm going to give our recommendations for supplies to backstock, to build a pantry, in case of any type of emergency, or just, like we just did just over 24 hours due to a power outage. We had some people go over a week without water and power in our area due to the storms that we had come through. And with us, it was a bit of just a hiccup, because the only thing that we had to do was tote water. Everything else we're pretty much well prepared on. But as far as things that we would recommend, and I had someone ask me about it, what would I recommend to backstock, to build a pantry for in case of emergencies. Number one thing I recommend is things that you eat. Coffees, teas, things like that. Shelf-stable milk, powdered milk. This is some of the older Thrive brand. We still haven't opened it. We've had it probably 8 years already. Canned meats, shelf-stable meats. This is some of the newer Thrive. Vegetables that you eat, whether they be freeze-dried, canned, just dried. Sauces and seasonings. If you can get them Mylar packs, stuff like that. Soup-based mixes. Ingredients for that you would add to stuff, like if you can, or if you make up things, it's like we have flour and sugar and salt and stuff like that backstocked, rice, dry corn and stuff and all, in case, like our grandson, when he's here and stuff, he enjoys homemade, some popcorn and stuff. And I mean, if nothing else, we could wrap that in aluminum foil, stick it in a frying pan, and cook it over the eye. First aid supplies. A lot of people don't think about, during times of natural disasters, things like that, or any other type of situation, even just day-to-day life on a homestead. First aid supplies are key. There's been times, I've ended up with cuts, scrapes, bruises, and punctures, and having a well-stocked first aid supply is key. Daily medicines. If you can talk to your doctor and possibly get them to, help you out, or if you can find over-the-counter versions or natural versions. In another video, I'll discuss books that we recommend and things like that. But backstocking water, on the average, a person that's relatively active, not completely, sitting around all the time, not doing anything, you're going to need at least 1 gallon of water a day per individual just to stay hydrated. Then you're going to need water for cleaning, washing, things like that. Baby wipes, believe it or not, are actually a good thing to backstock. We've seen at the beginning of the pandemic, the run on toilet paper and stuff like that. Now, we're not that worried about toilet paper. We tend to do our shopping for a month at a time anyway, so we typically have at least a month's supply of things like that in the house. But in an alternative, look up personal rags. Each person's responsible for their own rag. They wash it after use. They've got a couple they can rotate out through, and things like that. In a worst case scenario, there's an option. I mean, you got to remember, toilet paper is a modern convenience, and there was other ways that people wiped themselves and cleaned up after, things long before that. But in the field, in the military, we used to take baby wipes with the hard containers, and we would pour isopropyl alcohol in them, and then seal, then vacuum seal them up that way, or put them in Ziploc bags that way and stuff like that. And all that way, it would disinfect and clean at the same time when we were out in the field for long extended stays. But you want to look at canned meats and varieties of stuff and all that you eat. These things, it's important that you have a backstock of what you like, what you and your family will actually use and eat. Condiments, mustard, ketchup, things like that, I personally recommend having at least a 3-month supply of food and things in your home at all times. You know, we just did a repair on a young lady's well. Well, not exactly a young lady. She's probably my age or a little bit older. But I went over to help a friend, and she had literally spent just over a week without water. I mean, and when I asked her if she had a jug or something when we went to go reprime her well pump, she hands me this empty water jug. When I was done with it, I took it back to her, and she looked at me. She said, "Oh, well, I would have just thrown it away." And I said, "Well, we typically refill our water jugs and stick them underneath the sink for in case of times like this. Not to mention, you know, I keep about 165 gallons of water in barrels back stock that's been treated for long-term storage for our animals. You know, that's another thing people don't think about. You know, do you have food for your animals? Do you have water for your animals? If you have a garden, you know, what happens if you end up without power or anything and all for any length of days and stuff, and you know, you need to water your garden or whatever. Now, typically you don't have to worry so much about that because normally when the power goes out, it's due to tornadoes, rainstorms, hurricanes, things along those lines, or an ice storm, you know, which we don't have to worry so much about down here in the South. But yeah, just stocking up on things that you would use day to day and that you can make other things out of. Now, that's like we also do our home canned foods and things like that we have back stock. We typically have more home canned things back stock than we do the store-bought stuff. We have a small selection of Thrive and stuff because we're consultants for Thrive, and we really love their product. I mean, you know, honestly, the freeze-dried corn and all, which, believe it or not, you can eat it like candy. It's amazing. You know, the green beans and peas and stuff and all, they do individual ingredients, which to me is key. Like, you know, if you can find whole seasonings that haven't been ground up, like whole peppercorns, things along those lines, coarser salt and stuff. Salt is key. You know, our bodies need it. If you can find more nutrient-dense salt, not your typical table salt, but nutrient-dense salt like, you know, your pink Himalayan and your sea salts and stuff, they're better for you. Also, you know, when it comes to homesteading and setting back things and all, you want to have enough seed for the next year's plantings. So, you know, each year what you're doing is using the previous year's seed to plant the next year's garden. Now, it's best if you have enough to do, you know, at least 2 years out. That way, if you have a really bad year, you know, say a storm comes along and wipes out your garden, which we've had happen recently with some friends and stuff that planted fall gardens, or if you have, you know, other things like that you want to have something to fall back on for those things. As we've seen, there's food shortages and stuff and all starting to come up all over the world. You know, we've got crops that were wiped out, livestock. You know, with the pandemic, it's caused supply and demand issues. So being able to stock up when you can, catch meats on sale, and if you home can them. If you don't, you know, freeze them if you got the freezer space. Not, you know, if you're fortunate enough to have a root cellar, which we don't right now, you know, you can store stuff in there and all. But it's important to keep track of these things and to keep an eye on what you have in stock in your home, just in case times that you end up needing them. There was one time a few years back, and our motor went out in our vehicle, and we had to, you know, make a choice: down payment on another vehicle or buy groceries. Well, thankfully, because we keep, you know, at least a few months worth of food back stocked, we went out and put down payment on another vehicle. You know, and living out in the country, it's kind of necessary to have a vehicle. You know, to get back and forth to town when you need supplies, need food for the animals, things like that, or, you know, any other number of things. But there's my recommendations. These are just a few of the examples that I would recommend. And, you know, with us, it's always coffee. Sitting down and figuring out what you would need for that amount of time. You know, it's like we go through roughly 4 or 5 of these containers of coffee a month. So backstocking that for us having that on hand. It actually stays better than the freeze-dried bricks. We like it with chicory, which is why we have these brands. You know, and again, the only thing that I'm affiliated with here is Thrive Life, because I'm one of the consultants. Other than that, you know, I'm not worried about the brand. I want something that I can put back in back stock that we enjoy. You know, Viennas, canned tuna, corned beef, bulk sausage, salmon, hamburger and stuff. Anything that you can back stock like that, to where you have at least, you know, 3 months or so for in times of hard times and stuff and all, which, you know, looking at how this nation's going and stuff, it's definitely ahead of us. All right, I appreciate y'all stopping in. Hope you enjoyed the video. Y'all have a blessed one. Bye.